This is Jay Mancini. Welcome to the channel where we keep the wheels rolling and the cash flowing. And guys, today we're going to be talking about 5 ways to pass your Class B CDL exam on your first try. Number 1, guys, Commercial Motor Vehicle Handbook. CMV Handbook, what it is, guys, is actually a handbook that the state actually has. And what you can do, guys, you can actually download this handbook online. You can just search it. We're in Texas. I just simply put Texas CMV Handbook and boom, there you go. You'll have it. You can actually see it. You have a PDF and you can actually study the handbook. And what that leads me to, guys, is number 2, what you need to study. First, guys, if you're doing general knowledge, you need to study chapter 1, 2, 3, 12, and 13. If you're gonna do the air brakes, only one chapter, and that's chapter 5. And if you're here in Texas, you do what's called the Texas rules. That means you're gonna have 3 exams, and that would be Chapter 14. Now, guys, this handbook was originally created for you to actually study. And if you really want to dive deep with it and really know your stuff, I would highly recommend that you actually go through each chapter because it will give you all the details and everything you truly need to know to be able to pass your 3 exams. Or if you're in another state, you may only have 2, but one thing I know for sure, you're going to have your air brakes and you're going to have your general knowledge. And again, you can find all that information in that handbook. Number 3, guys, CDL Prep App. Now, there's different apps, but if you go on your phone and you simply search CDL Prep, there's different apps that you can actually look up on your phone and you can actually study as you go. Now, my friend George, he recently just passed his test, and what he was doing, he was going literally to his Texas CDL Prep App, and he was studying on there. He was looking up the questions and the answers, and he studied for about 3 days, and next thing you know, he passed his test. Now, guys, the difference, if you go to CDL Prep and you go to an app, right? The apps are basically going to give you the questions and they're also going to give you the answers, and you're able to actually go through the questions and you're able to actually find the answers. So if you go through it and you actually get the answer wrong, it will give you the right answer. So this is a quicker way than the original handbook. Now, just keep in mind, this is faster, right? But also, if you truly want to know everything there is to know, the handbook is still the more detailed way to finding out all this info because you're actually going through chapters and you're able to actually know everything about the general knowledge, the air brakes, or if you're in Texas, the Texas rules. But if you want to do it a little bit faster and you just want to say, hey, you know what, I need to get it done in a few days, you can go with the CDL Prep apps. And again, there's several apps out there, whichever one suits you best. I know that my friend George, what he did is he actually downloaded 2 different apps and he kind of compared one with the other, and then he ended up going with just one of them, which is the Texas CDL Prep app. So guys, another thing that the app is going to do is going to basically condition for you to know the questions and the answers. Maybe not necessarily so much the information or the knowledge, but it will condition you to know the questions and the answers. And one thing to keep in mind, guys, there is 2 different tests, meaning if you're doing the general knowledge, there's not just one exam. There's going to be 2 different exams. So let's say you go the first time and you were actually fail. Well, the second time you go, you're probably going to get a different exam. So keep that in mind as well. There's 2 different exams for the general knowledge, 2 different exams for the air brakes. Again, keep that in mind. So the app is great because you'll be able to see multiple different questions and you'll be able to see the answers for the different questions. Another thing to keep in mind, guys, also, one thing is that they'll actually ask you the same question, but in a different way. So you may have the same answer, but the question may be, changed in a different way where it's still ultimately asking you the same question, but you may not understand it one way versus the other. So again, it's important. I would highly recommend using the app. And if you really want to dive in and know more, you can also go through the handbook. Number 4, guys, driving school and their study guides. Now, what do I mean by study guides from a driving school? Guys, if you go into a driving school, which I'm assuming most of you will, what will happen, guys, is when you go there, you ask them, hey, do you have a study guide? Now, what does a study guide mean? Most of these driving schools, because you're paying a handsome amount of money, they're gonna have a study guide for you to actually study. And what does a study guide detail? Well, pretty much the questions and the answers. So one thing I would highly recommend is make sure you ask for that up front whenever you go to a driving school and just ask them, hey, obviously they're going to tell you what it's going to cost, but ask them, so do you have a study guide? And then ask them, does it have the questions and the answers? Just be pretty straightforward with them. And most driving schools nowadays, they're going to have a study guide. It's going to have the questions and it's going to have the answers. One thing I want you to know, guys, is the general knowledge test is going to have 50 questions. And by the way, guys, you're only allowed to miss 10, meaning you need to get an 80 or higher. And your air brakes is gonna have 25 questions, and same thing, guys, you need to get an 80 or higher. So guys, whether you're going with the CMV Handbook and the study guide from the CMV Handbook, or you're going with the CDL Prep App, or you're going with a study guide from a driving school, I highly recommend that you keep that in mind, that you need to have an 80 or higher to be able to pass, especially on your first try. Now, ultimately, guys, what I highly recommend is number 5, comparing 1 through 4. Yes, guys, comparing 1 through 4, meaning this is what I would do. If you really want to pass in your first try, what do, guys? Get the handbook, study the guide, chapters 1, 2, 3, 12, 13, chapter 5, right? Download also the CDL Prep App. And if you're going to go to a driving school, which again, I'm assuming most of you guys will, and they give you a study guide, now, guys, you have 3 different ways that you're going to study, right? You're going to have the study guide from the driving school, the app on your phone, and you're going to be studying straight from the handbook. If you're able to allocate the time and actually compare all 3 of them, I'm going to tell you what, guys, you're going to pass in your first try. Now, guys, that's what I would recommend doing. Why? Because ultimately, guys, I would rather study all 3 of them and compare one with the other, because you got to keep in mind, once again, guys, there's 2 different tests for each exam, right? So whichever one you get, you'll have the knowledge, you'll have the information to make sure you pass on your first try. And most importantly, guys, when you study and you know your info and you actually get your driver's license, you get to go out on the road and actually take the skills test. You're going to be definitely knowledgeable and aware of everything that you need to know. Guys, if you found this video valuable, make sure you like and subscribe. And you already know, this is Jay Mancini. We keep the wheels turning and the cash flowing, and we'll see you on the next one.